Hello and welcome to Return to Regalia, an Underland Chronicles reread podcast. I'm Oona.
And I'm Nate.
Today we'll be covering chapters 17 and 18 of the Prophecy of Bane, in which the questers reach the Tankard and encounter some sea serpents. Where we left off, Luxa and Howard were mourning the death of Pandora after she got eaten alive by mites.
That's still, I think that one got me the hardest out of all the deaths, at least up until that point, because it was so sudden, and it's just like such a fucked up way to die. The description of it is like her bones were picked clean before she could even react.
Yeah.
Like, that's not good. Just seeing somebody die in such a final way where it's like, oh, there's not even a possibility of them coming back. That has to suck to watch for Howard.
Yeah, I'm so with you on that. Like, it's crazy. We talked about it a lot last episode.
Nice.
But yeah, I'll never be over that scene. Chapter 17 starts with Gregor eating only raw fish for dinner because he, Temp, Howard, and Ares all give their rations of bread and meat to Boots.
Lola says, I want rations of bread and meat.
What's up, Lola?
Is everybody ignoring you?
Alright, now that we've heard from the third roommate. Twitchtip says she smells rats, which means they're getting close to the labyrinth. Marith asks if the serpents are still sleeping, and she says yes, but they'll wake up soon. So this is a nod to how Howard said at the beginning of their quest that the serpents' mating season was soon. So I guess they're, like, about to come out of some kind of hibernation and get busy.
Interesting. I forgot about that part. I'm trying to think, because when I was reading this, I'm trying to think what the serpents are, because when Gregor sees him, he realizes, those are dinosaurs. And I'm also, this is not even related, but how come dinosaurs in the ocean went extinct, even though the meteor didn't get them? Or did it get them? Why are there only giant mammals in the ocean, but no giant reptiles? But that's not related.
I feel like I was just reading something about how there's, giant mammals. Maybe that was something in Sapiens that we were listening to.
Oh, nice.
I forget. But yeah, I was wondering, we're going to get to the description of the serpents later, and I was trying to figure out, is this a dinosaur that I would recognize? We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Everyone tries to sleep until Temp warns everyone that the Shiners are leaving. Howard is especially upset about them deserting, calling them conniving, vile creatures. I love this hatred that Howard has for the Shiners because it continues in the fourth book when the Shiners come back.
Oh my god, right!
They meet the Shiners again and Howard is back to hating them, and it's just this grudge that he holds. Twitchtip says the Fireflies will probably go sell them out to the rats now, but she also says, on the good side, we won't have to listen to them whine anymore. Everyone is shocked at first, but when they realize Twitchtip made a joke, they all laugh, because the one thing that unites them all is that they all hated the Shiners.
Love that. They finally have found a common enemy to bond around.
Yes.
I love this little moment of and Luxa and Twitchtip go back and forth for a minute. It's so cute.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, Luxa's it's a shame you didn't get to eat them, and Twitchtip is they taste nasty anyway. Yeah, it's great. Howard says they have enough fuel to get to the labyrinth, but they won't have much light after that. Gregor thinks again about how the words light and life are interchangeable for the Underlanders, and he says, I have life, I mean light. I like that part, just because he's thinking about it so hard that he just says the wrong thing at first.
Yeah!
Gregor takes out his flashlights and duct tapes them to the humans' non-sword arms. Boots insists on getting one too, and Gregor tapes the mini flashlight from Mrs. Cormacy on her sleeve. Boots shows it off to Temp, and Gregor has to remind her not to waste the battery. There's this cute moment where the Underland humans also hear this and guiltily turn off their own flashlights, and Gregor smiles because he can tell that they think the flashlights are cool.
That's a cute moment.
I love that part that he's just telling Boots remember not to waste it, and then all of the Underlanders hear that and are oh. Because they don't know about batteries, or they know conceptually about batteries, but they have never needed, they understand the concept of fuel, because they run out of fuel for their lamps and torches and whatnot, but they're looking at these flashlights, and like Luxa in the first book with Gregor's hard hat is like, how does it produce light without producing heat? So I bet these things are so magical to them.
Right, like it's just like the equivalent of a lightsaber for us. Like, holy shit, I just press the button and the light comes out.
Yeah, and they're like so charmed. And also just the fact that Gregor thought to tape flashlights to everyone's arms. Like, that's so smart.
Right? Because I know there's a scene where he is trying to fight rats in the dark and his flashlight gets knocked away. Is that in this book?
I think that's in the 4th book.
Okay, then I like that he just like, we don't even see his thought process. Just like, obviously you would duct tape the flashlight to their arms. Like,
Yeah, it's great because they don't have to like hold it, and I'm not sure that they have another source of light that they wouldn't have to like hold in their other arm.
Oh, true.
Like a lantern or a torch would require the other hand.
They got to get those glow in the dark like stars. And just everybody tapes one to their forehead or something.
In the last book, the friendly rats dip their tails in bioluminescent shit.
Oh my god, yeah.
To mark them as like the ally rats.
Glow stick rats.
Yeah, they should just have stars.
Yes.
They should just be the star-bellied sneeches.
Yes.
Glow in the dark. The boat enters a channel flanked by rock walls, and Twitchtip says 47 rats are waiting for them in the tunnels above the Tankard, which she explains is a deep shaft half full with water, and the serpents sleep at the bottom. Twitchtip can also smell the Bane from here. She says it's deep in the labyrinth, and she can smell only flashes of it, but it's definitely there. Again, how is she smelling the color? Because she says, I can smell its whiteness.
Right.
How does white fur smell different than other colors of fur?
Right, like I guess it must. I guess.
But like, how?
Is that from real life or is that just made up for the book? Because I feel like you can't smell colors. This is something that I would have been able to say with confidence before reading this book.
You can't smell colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we get the first intro to Twitchtip's power when we learn that she can smell colors, is when she identifies the color of Boots' shirt. And I thought that she must be smelling the dye in the shirt. And, like, that makes sense to me. Like, if you know what the dye smells like, you can, like, pick out the color. But why would different colors of fur smell different?
Right. And also, semi-related, it just occurred to me, does she not know that the Bane is a baby, or does she just not think that this is relevant information to share? Like, why can't she be like, smells like a baby rat?
That's what I was thinking too. Like, you'd think that she'd be able to tell that it was a baby, but I think that it's explained by, like, it's so deep in the labyrinth and she's only smelling flashes of it.
She can only smell things that would obviously have a strong scent, like the color white.
Yeah, I don't know how she can smell the color white, but not the fact that it's a baby.
Maybe, like, if you have different genes that make your fur white, like, you can smell.
Yeah, like, you have different chemicals going on in your body.
Yeah.
Or, like, I don't fucking know.
Maybe that's just how she smells something and she can tell it's the Bane, but she can't really explain it. Like how, like, what's Ramanujan the mathematician?
Yes.
Exactly like that. Like, you can say what it is, but if somebody asks you, like, put it in words that I can understand, she couldn't do that, or like she doesn't want to bother, so she's just like, I can smell that it's white. Are you going to doubt me, the rat with the magical nose?
Yeah. It is mostly just magic, I would think. Yeah, the fact that she can do this. That's funny. You compared it to Ramanujan.
I think he had a lot. I mean, I'm basing it off the Ramanujan biopic we watched, which is
starring Dev Patel.
Yes, out now on the internet for free illegally.
I think that makes sense though, because like Twitchtip reads to me as very like neurodivergent.
Yeah.
And I think that it makes sense that she isn't capable of describing her like thought process all the time and explaining her power that like the humans have no context for. Like they have no idea how rat noses work.
Right, like at least other rats have like a basis for what she's talking about.
Yeah, because even later in the series, Ripred like tells Gregor like, I could smell that you were in love with Luxa. And the rats, I think in the first book, tell Gregor that they can like smell fear or whatever.
Okay. I was going to bring this up later, but I do have several screenshots of facts about rat noses. And one of them is that rats can smell, they have all mammals, or like most mammals, have this organ, the vemoronasal organ, It's located in the soft tissue in the nasal septum, in the nasal cavity, just above the mouth, above the roof of the mouth, in various tetrapods, which is that four-legged things language?
Yeah, tetra.
Nice. So, and that they can use that to actually smell like pheromones. So like love, fear. We could get and scientists cannot agree on whether humans have this or not. So that's fun. Like we definitely aren't using it, but we might have a vestigial one.
Oh, okay.
But we can get more to that later. But Rip Red can indeed, I think, if I read these random Wikipedia snippets right, understand that Gregor's in love from smell.
Love that. The rat facts.
Yes, thank you. I have more, but I'm waiting to deploy them at the appropriate time.
Excellent. I can't wait.
Yay.
Yeah, so, like, I guess we were talking about, like, the rats would have more context for what Twitchtip's power is like, and, like, the humans just don't have any of that ability. Like you said, like, humans are definitely not using their super sniffers correctly, but the rats are. So, like, even Rip Red is able to, like, smell love and fear and shit. So he would know what it's like for Twitchtip to be able to smell that, like, 1,000 times more. And the humans just, like, don't know that. So I'm sure that she just doesn't have the words to explain it at some points. Okay, so the original plan for the Questers was to sneak into a tunnel above the Tankard, but now that the Shiners have betrayed them to the rats, there's no chance for a covert operation. Meredith explains that they can either fight or flee, and when Gregor points out there's nowhere to flee to, Howard starts passing out swords.
That's great. Doesn't he actually say, like, well, that makes it easy then?
Yeah, that narrows our options or something like that. God, I love both Meredith and Howard are just my favorites, my favorite characters. Anyway, Meredith asks Twitchtip to direct them to the tunnel that'll give them the best chance of survival. I like that he's asking her for her expertise here. Like, just a few chapters ago, like, Meredith was one of the group that was like, we're not gonna waste time saving her from the whirlpool.
Right.
But now he's, like, caught up to the rest of them. Like, Howard had this lightning bolt moment of, like, oh, I promised to save anyone in peril in the water, and Twitchtip is in peril, so I gotta adjust my worldview and save her. And, like, Meredith is also catching up here, I think, to the realization that Twitchtip is a person.
Rats are people, too. Yeah.
Yeah. The Questers enter the Tankard, and we get a little description of it. It's kind of like they're in a huge well with vertical stone walls, and the walls have a bunch of tunnels leading off at varying heights. Gregor sees rats standing in many of the tunnel entrances, but everything is completely still and silent until there's a slight scraping sound and a big splash. The rats are pushing boulders into the water from above. At first, the Questers don't understand why, because the rocks aren't landing close to them, but then Howard and Twitchtip realize that the rats aren't trying to hit them. They're waking the serpents at the bottom of the Tankard.
That's so funny. You're just trying to get your hibernation in before the fuck fest, and these people start dropping rocks on you. I would be biting too.
I hate when that happens. Yeah, these poor serpents just getting an early wake-up call. The bats lift the boat into the air, and Twitchtip tells them which tunnel to take. But before they can reach it, a gigantic serpent tail smacks the side of the boat. When he sees the serpent, Gregor immediately thinks about dinosaurs. It's a huge aquatic reptile, and its body is a flattened oval with a whip-like tail and a 30-foot-long neck, which is fucking gigantic. Its bullet-shaped head has indentations where it might have had eyes at some point in its evolution, but now they're gone. When it opens its mouth to howl, Gregor sees that it has 3 rows of hundreds and hundreds of teeth.
Lola is adjusting her seat on a chair so that she can better contribute to the podcast. Yeah, that's not a thing you want to see when you look in somebody's mouth.
Never a good sign. Hundreds and hundreds of teeth. Yeah, the whole dinosaur thing. Like, I fully believe that we could crack open an encyclopedia of dinosaurs and maybe find something that looks like this.
I'm getting the word Diplodocus. But I'm gonna Google that.
I was never one of those kids who was, like, super into dinosaurs, and I kind of regret it. Because I feel like it would be so cool if I could just, like, pull out a dinosaur name right now.
Right. I think Diplodocus. Oh yeah, okay, that's wrong. So that was pretty cool, but also wrong. It's on land. But I do, what are those? Is it like a plesiosaurus? Oh yeah, it's a plesiosaurus. Okay.
Let me see the
Yeah,
picture.
let me get into the Google images. Oh, I mean, you're not gonna like this, but
I'm ready.
okay, all right.
Jesus Christ! Oh my god, that's terrifying. I feel like I've had a nightmare in this picture before. What we're looking at, folks, is kind of like a snake. It's like a big eel. It's like those evil eels from The Princess Bride.
I was gonna say Little Mermaid. Lots of evil eels in media. Why are they so maligned? Anyway.
Yeah, but it has like a thicker body. Like it's clearly got like a neck, a body, and then a tail. And then the body has like 4 kind of flipper things coming out of it. But the head is like a snake with just huge teeth. Yeah, this is terrifying. But apparently they're small. There's this other picture that has it next to a silhouette of a human.
Oh.
And it looks kind of just like maybe big alligator size.
Yeah, okay. I assumed, I was like, oh, this is just gigantic, but no.
Yeah, this picture makes it look very big, but this little comparison with the human is like, that's just like a alligator, which doesn't make it any less frightening, but like...
But you could maybe train it to like let you ride it.
But yeah, I guess it makes sense if they're giant in the Underland because everything's giant.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I wonder if they've just been chilling. They survived the meteor strike from down in the earth. That's scary.
Just hanging out, getting bigger, losing their eyes.
Yeah.
Having mating seasons. I guess, I don't know if crocodiles and stuff have mating seasons or not.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Because they say that Howard is like explaining that, or someone is explaining to Gregor that like they breathe air, but they sleep underwater. And I'm pretty sure alligators do that, right?
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm actually gonna look that up.
Hell yeah.
Well, they don't hibernate. They brumate, the reptilian equivalent of a mammal hibernation. I've never heard this before.
No.
Hibernation and brumation are both periods of dormancy where physiological processes decelerate in response to cold temperatures. It says that it's basically the same as hibernation, but like hibernation for mammals, they'll fall into a deep sleep and like they don't eat or drink, but reptiles will still have periods of activity, but they don't eat. But they continue to drink to avoid dehydration.
That's funny that mammals don't have to drink, but the guys living in the water do.
Yeah, wait, what?
Skill issue.
Evolve better.
Yeah.
Get good. Anyway, but yeah, these giant dinosaurs are just like absolutely terrifying. And the narration says, the howl chilled Gregor right down to his DNA, which I can totally relate to. Like looking at that picture and thinking it was like very large. Like I said this on the episode about the giant squids, but I hate sea creatures, especially if they're like very large. So I can totally relate to Gregor just like looking at this thing in its gigantic mouth and being completely like frozen and paralyzed by fear.
Yeah. And literally instinctual fear because this thing can eat you.
Yeah. I like the description of right down to his DNA because it's such a like primal fear. Like big teeth, that's bad.
It's like in the first book where he lets out a primal caveman scream. And
yes, exactly. This also reminded me of in Percy Jackson, the Draken in book 5. Percy describes it as it's not able to paralyze you with like the same way that Medusa does, but if you look it in its eyes, it will scare you so badly that you're paralyzed. And I think that that's very similar to these gigantic creatures. Marith tells everyone to jump out of the boat so the bats can catch them. Gregor grabs Boots, leaps, and lands on Ares with Temp, who has helpfully remembered to bring Gregor's sword for him. Literally, what would Gregor do without Temp?
Yeah. I love that he thinks of himself like some warrior.
Yeah. Half a dozen serpents swing their heads and tails around, trying to hit them out of the air. Ares dodges until Gregor sees Twitchtip dangling by her tail from a serpent's mouth, and they go to save her. A tail smacks Ares, and Gregor and Boots fall off his back. Gregor tries to tell Ares to save Boots, but he catches Gregor first, and tells him that Luxa and Aurora got her and Temp. This is the exact thing that Gregor told Ares to do, is like, if you have to choose between me and Boots, save Boots first. and Ares just like doesn't.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. In the time that it took him to get Gregor, he could have gotten Boots, but he was like, oh, they'll get her.
Yeah. But then they get separated.
Right.
Like, even though Boots ends up safe at the end of this, they do get separated from each other, which is what Gregor has been trying to avoid all this time.
Right.
Like, the point of bringing her on the quest is so that they wouldn't get separated. Obviously, I don't blame Ares, because, like, that's a really tough position that Gregor put him in to be like, yeah, I know that we're bonds and whatever, and you've already gotten in trouble for not saving your other bond, and they really won't forgive you for doing it again, but, like, save my little sister. And Ares does it. Like, he can't.
Yeah. Damn, Gregor, you should have given him that in writing. Like, Ares can hold it up like he said, save his sister.
Yeah. Sign some documents, make it official. But yeah, no, like, I think that instinctually Ares is just, like, Gregor's the most important, and, like, even though he said this thing, like, obviously he's trusting that Aurora will be able to catch Boots also. Like, Ares is not just leaving Boots to die, but he's still not able to, like, follow Gregor's instruction or his wishes that he save Boots. It's just so rough. Like, that split-second decision of, like, who do I catch? Which is, like, a choice he's made before.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. Howard flies by on Andromeda with an unconscious Meredith and tells them to get to the tunnels. 20-foot-high waves crash against the rock walls, and rats are getting gobbled up by the serpents.
What I'm wondering is, like, at first they see the rats pushing the rocks, and they're like, oh, those dumb rats, they're not going to get us. But then the rats have clearly, like, planned to wake the serpents to get them, and it's like, oh, that's pretty smart. But then the rats didn't plan far enough to be like, we're also in biting range of the serpents. So, like, what happened there?
Like, yeah, I imagine maybe the rats, like, wanted to stick around and watch what would happen to make sure that Gregor died, or just to, for entertainment. And also, it's like, apparently the serpents can, like, stick their heads into some of the tunnels, so maybe the serpents stuck their heads into the tunnels, and the rats thought that they were deep enough in the tunnels that they wouldn't get eaten, but alas. But yeah, it is ironic that they had this whole, like, excellent plan to wake the serpents, but they didn't think through, like, oh, we're food too. Ares dives, grabs Twitchtip, and dips into a tunnel. Howard, Meredith, and Andromeda are there too, but Meredith's leg is bleeding badly. Twitchtip's nose has been smashed in, and her tail is now a bleeding stump. Gregor shines his flashlight at the entrance of the tunnel to see if Luxa and the others made it in, but there's only a giant serpent shooting towards them.
Don't like that.
Nuh-uh.
Things you don't want to see coming down you in a narrow tunnel.
Yeah.
Definitely up on the list.
I feel like this is something I've always, like, skipped over in my reading. Like, I don't remember the serpent coming through the tunnel toward Gregor, and it's, like, over pretty quick. So maybe that's why, but also maybe I just, like, blocked it out.
Right? Yeah. When I actually take the time to picture it, it's like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
It's like a jump scare, but it's alive.
Yeah. I can't imagine, like, them trying to make a movie out of this, but, like, still have it be for kids. Like, this would be so terrifying.
They just need to, like, do, like, a Riverdale style. Everybody's aged up and, like...
I would fucking hate that. Or like a Percy Jackson movie where they're all, like, inexplicably teenagers, but they're played by, like, 22-year-olds.
Boots is, like, the sarcastic, like, sullen kid.
Oh,
like,
my God.
Gregor, I don't want to go to the Underland. It's boring and they don't have video games.
That's what they would turn her into.
Yes.
Oh, man. Yeah, no, like, even if you did this animated, like, I don't know, like, maybe, I haven't watched How to Train Your Dragon in a long time, but, like, they've got some pretty big dragons in there, but nothing, like, absolutely spine-chilling. Yeah, whenever I picture them trying to make a movie out of Gregor, it's in the style of How to Train Your Dragon. I don't know why, but I just think it would fit well. Like, it manages to be cartoony, but also cool and realistic. Should we get into chapter 18?
Let's do it.
So this one starts with Gregor leaping over Twitchtip and stabbing the serpent's tongue. It smashes its head on the ceiling and rocks shower down on them. It retreats from the tunnel with Gregor's sword still in its mouth, and he shouts for another sword. Howard tosses him one, but he ends up not needing it because no more serpents come down the tunnel. With things quieting down outside, Gregor returns to Howard, who is doing CPR on Meredith. Howard wraps Meredith's leg in catch cloths and duct tape from Gregor's pack, explaining that a serpent bit him when they went to save Twitchtip. I'm glad that this time they chose to go save Twitchtip. And, like, Meredith and Howard chose to make that sacrifice for her, like, to risk getting hurt to save a rat. And Meredith did get hurt really badly, but they still made that decision to save her. Like, that's great.
Yeah, it's like nobody says it, but it's like a big moment. They grew, and then I remember when Howard says to her, like, sorry, I had to cut off your tail, and Twitchtip is like, it's okay, I would have done the same thing if I could. It's just like a little handshake moment.
Yeah. I don't think I ever paid much attention to this when I was a kid reading these, but, like, there's a very clear arc of, like, in the whirlpool scene, Howard and Meredith and Luxa are all very much, like, ready to leave Twitchtip to die. And Gregor just calls them out on it. And then over the course of a handful of chapters, really, they become totally different towards her. Like, they're asking her for her opinion on things, and they're sacrificing themselves to save her. And it's just kind of like this thing that's happening in the background. It's not like super relevant to the quest, but, like, it's just this thing that, like, Howard and Meredith and Luxa are quietly, like, going through in the background of this book, like, learning that rats are people, I guess. Andromeda and Howard agree that they need to get Meredith back to Regalia. Howard goes to Twitchtip and wraps catch cloths around her tail and her broken nose, and she tells Gregor how a serpent crushed it with its tail and now she can't smell anything. Gregor panics not only about how Twitchtip won't be able to find the Bane now, but more so about how she can't tell where Boots is.
Right. And this is the perfect time to get back into rat olfactory systems.
Lay it on us.
Hell yeah. So when Twitchtip said this, for some reason, I was immediately skeptical when she was like, I can't smell because my nose was crushed. I'm like, that's too easy. I don't think that's how it works. And after doing some research, I think that is how it works. But now I know more about rat noses. Because I was just like, there's nerves in your nose, right? Like, just because you can't sniff doesn't mean that, like, they're still not... Like, I went and I stood over the scented candle and I sniffed it, and then I plugged my nose and, like, breathed in through my mouth and, like, tried to tell, like, how much information I could get from that for, like, a good 30 seconds.
I love the dedication.
Thank you. I was supposed to be doing work at the time, so that probably helped. But yeah, so rat olfactory systems... Because my thought was, like, even if she can't get air in, like, she still has her olfactory bulb and, like, whatever cells actually sense that. So basically what it seems like, yes, she still would have had those things, but one, rat olfactory bulbs are kind of closer to the nose, like, than they are in humans, where it's like, if her nose was so crushed, it could have also messed with that a little bit, and her receptor cells. But other facts, so she actually probably cannot smell, but she might still be able to use her veromonasal organ, which she can't use for distant smelling, but she can, like, when rats sniff and lick, molecules from the environment stick to the moist nose and dissolve, and are then transported to the VNO, let's go VNO, suspended in mucus. So, like, theoretically, she can still, like, she can't do long range anymore, which is mostly what they're using her for, but she could still smell a little, I think, or kind of like taste smell. I might be completely wrong. Other facts about rat noses, I thought this was very interesting. A study in 1942 found that albino rats have worse senses of smell than other rats, based on how long it took them to back away from a pungent smelling piece of garlic. So either albino rats like the Bane have worse senses of smell, or they like garlic more. No, I think they also tested other things, but I think that's interesting that, like, potentially the Bane has a worse sense of smell.
That is really interesting.
Right?
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, all on... See, I screenshotted this and then I didn't take a picture of the URL, so I might have to go add a works cited later.
Yeah, sure thing. Is that the same for other albino beings, or is it just rats?
I don't know. It looks like from the screenshot I saw, they only tested with rats. And yeah, I don't know if they were trying to draw conclusions about, like, everybody. I don't know if they said it's like because they have fewer nose glands, whatever that's called. Okay. According to 10 facts about rats you never knew from Petri Pest Control, which might be a biased source, rats have 1,207 olfactory genes compared to humans at 396 olfactory receptors. So I don't know if they meant to say receptors for the first one. Anyway, rats have better senses of smells, and according to the abstract of another study, historically, the olfactory system has been considered primitive. However, we now know that the olfactory system has projections to the prefrontal cortex, entorhinal cortex, and hippocampus, and that these connections support the acquisition of simple and higher order instrumental tasks. It appears that animals with a well-developed sense of smell have the neural machinery to think with their noses. So, like, researchers are like, we didn't realize how good they could smell, and like, they might literally have like a different way of mental processing. Ooh. Like how you see something and you're like, yeah, I can interact with this object. Like maybe rats smell it and they're like, wow, hot piece of gossip over there.
Wow.
So yeah, like when you said that the humans can't understand exactly what Twitchtip means when she says she smells things, like, yeah, very true.
Yeah, wow. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, no, I did some really intense Googling for like 15 incredible minutes. And now we know all those facts, kind of.
That's great. Thank you for doing some research for the podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad I got on there.
Yeah, I always love learning animal facts for these books. Yeah, what I'm getting from that is that rats think with their noses. Twitchtip has a really strong sense of smell. Twitchtip is neurodivergent coded.
I was gonna say Twitchtip is a genius, but that could also be. She's like a savant.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I love the idea of, I don't know, just like the social implications of having someone who's just like better than smelling at everyone else, like especially when it's such a big part of rat culture apparently.
Right. Like, yeah, that would super affect like how she fits in with other people, and it might just go beyond what the humans see of like she's super sensitive to smells, so she likes to be alone. Like maybe rats don't want to talk to her. It's not just like a superstition thing. It's like you walk up to Twitchtip and she's like, hey, I can smell that you cheated on your wife. And you're like, what the fuck, Twitchtip? Like,
yeah, I think that's what she says at one point. She's like, well, I could smell their secrets.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah,
right.
I think she says that to Gregor.
And like with like social fitting in with like neurodivergent stuff, like when she's young, she doesn't realize that you're not supposed to talk about all the things that you can smell.
Yeah.
Because the other rats do. So the rats are just like, I smelled bubble gum today. And she's like, I smelled that your dad, what are rat crimes? Your dad committed rat crimes. And all the other rats are like, oh, we don't like you now.
We've talked about bat crimes. Now we've got rat crimes.
Yes.
What's next? Cat crimes?
Cat crimes. We already are familiar with those.
Yeah, we're pretty familiar. No, yeah, I think that's totally true. I think Twitchtip, the more I think about it, she really does fit into like this framework. Love her.
Yes.
I was going to say more, but like, I don't know. It would just be me talking about how much I love Twitchtip. And we can all agree on that.
Yes,
so.
yes.
Ares confirms that Aurora told him that they caught Boots and Temp, and Twitchtip agrees that they were all together, but then there was water separating the two groups. Howard thinks this means they were pulled under, but Ares insists that's not true and goes to call for Aurora. While he's gone, Gregor starts to go numb from the feet up, and when Ares returns with no answer from Aurora, Gregor's heart goes cold. He remembers the lines of the prophecy about the baby dying, and he thinks that Boots must be dead and the rats will be celebrating their victory, because now he's broken in two. Howard asks Gregor what he wants to do now. He replies, his voice calm and cool, telling Howard to get Marith and Twitchtip back to Regalia. Twitchtip asks what Gregor will do, and the chapter ends with this. Gregor felt the last bit of warmth disappear as the ice went across his forehead and up over the top of his head. There was nothing left that anyone could do to him now. There was nothing left to fear. Me, he said, I'm going to kill the Bane. And that is the end of part 2, The Hunt.
God damn.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I was thinking after I read this, like, it makes so much sense that Gregor basically dissociates when he finds out that Boots is dead, because, like, he has a lot of experience, like, just turning off parts of his brain because he is not able to deal with them. Like, his dad leaving.
Yes.
He just, like, of course he just goes numb and is able to do what people are telling him that he needs to do.
Yeah.
And I also have wondering, like, if the rager sensation is a similar thing. Like, both Gregor and Ripred have, like, had really traumatic stuff happening to them. They both have the rager thing, and the rager thing is kind of described as, like, I think when it first happens, like, he can't remember, like, hitting on the blood balls.
Yeah, it's like this dissociative episode. Yeah.
So I wonder if it's, like, not just, like, an inherent thing, but if, like, people, like, if it's happens in warriors, because warriors are, like, they have more bad shit happen to them. They have more, they obviously have survived more terrible things, and they get better at dissociating, and then they, in turn, unlock this skill that's, like, born of their trauma.
Oh my god. Yeah, some people have talked about that before, actually.
Oh,
some
shit.
People on Tumblr and in the YouTube comments on these episodes have been, like, talking about how they think that the rager power comes from a traumatic experience.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's something I really want to look at going forward. But, like, what you're saying is about, like, it being this dissociative episode, like, that is so real, actually. Like, I hadn't considered that. But yeah, Gregor describes it as, like, he can't really remember what he did while he was in rager mode, and it happens, like, so fast but also in slow motion, and, like, yeah, and this is very much the same. Like, he's just having this, like, full body reaction as the narration describes the coldness, like, seeping up his body. It's so visual, just the idea of, like, the coldness overtaking him, and I can totally picture him with just, like, this blank face, like, realizing what needs to be done. Like, Gregor does this a lot, actually, in the books. Like, I'm thinking about at the end of book 1 when he's like, oh, I'm the one who has to die. Like, the prophecy says, like, I have to die so the others will live, and he's like, I need to chuck myself off the side of this canyon, and he just, like, decides that. And he's like, that's what needs to be done, so I'm gonna do it.
You're so right. And he's not, in both of these cases, he's not super emotional about it. He turns that part off. It's not helping him.
Yeah, it also reminds me of in the first book when they're all trying to sleep, and it's when they, like, first meet Ripred, and Gregor is, like, nervous that Ripred is just gonna kill them all in their sleep, and then Gregor realizes that there's, like, nothing that he can do to stop Ripred from killing them, and that's what makes him able to fall asleep.
I love that Gregor is, like, that could theoretically be considered a good coping mechanism. Or, like, you know, if you can't change something, don't worry about it. But it's also very bad.
Yeah. It's interesting just, like, how quickly he can accept terrible circumstances. Like, he just seems to be able to adjust immediately and take action.
And it's like, maybe these things will, like, hurt him down the road. Like, theoretically, if Ripred actually did attack him, Gregor would be worse off if he just accepted it. But, like, in the moment, it helps him.
Yeah.
And that's his fucking life.
Yeah, that's his survival mechanism. And it's very much what he does in the last book when he learns that the prophecy says that he's gonna die. He thinks about the stone knight from the museum, and that is totally him dissociating. He imagines himself as the knight and thinks, like, that's me, I'm this soldier, and there's no use in trying to fight this because the prophecy says I'm gonna die, and that means I'm gonna die, and that's just what's gonna happen, so that's me now. It's absolutely devastating, and he does it a lot in these books.
Yeah, I have never, like, put this together.
Me neither. Oh my god.
Damn, that's fucked up. That's really sad.
But it's like, it's part of his, just the fact that he's got so much resolve. Like, I'm hesitant to call it bravery. Like, he's definitely very brave, but he's also very self-sacrificial. Like, earlier in this book, when he chooses to save Twitchtip from the whirlpool, he, like, jumps out of the boat that's in the air because the flyers are, like, holding it aloft in the air, and he jumps, like, 50 feet into the water or something, and, like, he just decides that that's what's gotta happen to save Twitchtip, and he's, like, not thinking about his own safety at all, and everyone else on the boat is like, you can't do this, like, you're the warrior, we need you. And he's just like, what are you gonna do about it? You know? And So I guess it would be bravery, but not always a responsible kind of bravery.
Right. Like I can see in another book, like there's a lot of stuff where like the hero is so self-sacrificing and everybody's like, dude, you got to stop this. You got to take care of yourself more. And it's funny that in this book they're like, dude, you're the warrior. You're not supposed to die yet.
Yeah. Yeah, like they want him to be self-sacrificing, but not in that way.
Right. You're reining in a little bit, buddy.
Yeah. You can only die for us, to help us. If you're dying to help a rat, we don't like that.
Fuck.
Yeah, God. There's so many layers here. Yeah, wow. I really want to keep looking for Gregor's dissociation throughout the books now.
Gregor's no terrible, very bad moments.
Yes.
No, wait, did I say no terrible? No good, very bad moments.
That's the one.
Yes.
I feel like I've never thought this deeply about Gregor's mental health before. Like, I always knew that he was pretty messed up, and like I always figured like, oh yes, this boy is going to have a lot of trauma if he goes back to the overland, like after all of this is done. He's definitely like not gonna be well adjusted. But now I'm just like really thinking about all the specific instances of like evidence of him not doing mentally healthy things.
And I'm sure that'll continue to happen. Like when bad things happen in the overland, he will still dissociate like that. I feel like I read or something that's like, or just like EMTs, like that happens a lot. Like you're very calm in the crisis and then later you like fall apart.
Yeah, and I'm sure that is an asset in some areas.
Right. But we're better when your brain has finished developing, Gregor.
Yeah, God.
Not that it's his, not that he really has a choice about this. It's just sad.
It's just so sad, yeah, that he's like grown up in a life that has given him these like maladaptive skills, and now he's being forced to utilize them like tenfold because he's being thrown into this like war. God, we could talk on and on about Gregor's mental health. Maybe mental health will be a bonus episode.
Yes, bonus episode. I'll go steal my mom's copy of the DSM-5 next time I go to her house.
Fuck yes.
We can get nuts.
We can have a diagnosis party.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, I mean, that's the end of part 2. We're about to get into it. The end part.
I feel like listening to these books versus reading them, I forget like how fast everything happens.
Truly.
It felt like such a long journey listening to it, and then I'm reading it like, oh, that was like 10 pages. Like, oh, okay, in 10 pages, like we have multiple grievous injuries. Boots is missing, Luke's is missing, Aurora is missing, and Gregor is ready to murder a rat.
Yeah, they're very like tight, self-contained, not a single page is wasted.
Yeah.
It's just so efficient in its storytelling. And I want to be able to write like this so bad. Just cut out all of the unnecessary shit and write this like beautiful, simple, straightforward narrative that is simultaneously so deep and like packed with meaning.
Right.
Like, it's so good.
Conclusion of this podcast, The Underline Chronicles is good.
You heard it here first.
We figured it out.
We cracked the code. Anyway, do you have any other thoughts?
Ooh, let me see if I can find one more rat fact that I saved on my phone.
Oh, I'd love to have
a nice wrap up.
A good wrap up rat fact.
Rats have something called the piriform cortex. I don't know what it is because I'm just looking at a labeled diagram. I didn't really screenshot enough rat facts. So watch out for that. Next time you're messing with a rat, watch out for the piriform cortex. It could get you too.
If you're a rat expert, write in. We want to know about rat noses.
Oh, yes, please do.
Well, thanks so much for joining me, Nate.
Yeah, it was good to be here.
Good talks. Some good juicy chapters.
Indeed.
Next week, we'll be covering the first 3 chapters of Part 3, The Maze. Reminder that you can now follow and rate this podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts, along with some others. You can find links to us on all of those platforms at returntoregalia.card.co. That's CARRD.co. I have a few people to thank here before we wrap up the episode. First off, thank you to Al, who donated to the podcast on Ko-Fi. I really appreciate your support because it helps me pay for the hosting service we now use. If you'd like to be a pal like Al and donate to the pod, you can do so at ko-fi.com/return-to-regalia. You can find that link on our card as well. Second, I'd like to give a huge shout out to our guest from last episode, Audie, aka Prophecy of Grey on Tumblr, who composed an extended version of the Return to Regalia theme song and drew a mugshot of Ares hanging upside down for the Ares and the Flyers EP.
Love it. Opens up so many possibilities in the Underland world.
It's beautiful. Both of these works of art are just so good.
Yeah, I feel like we spent like a solid 15 minutes listening to the song on a loop.
Yeah, we put the extended theme song on loop and we're just like chilling, listening to it like over and over again. I reblogged both of those posts on Tumblr with the tag podcast fan art if you want to check it out. Third, I'd like to thank Tumblr user Quohotos for continuing to create amazing fan art of us as giant animals. It warms my heart every time I see myself as a big bat. You can find that art reblogged on our Tumblr as well. And last but not least, a big thank you to Nate, who is working on episode transcripts for the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we only have a few out right now, but more are on the way. You can find the transcripts attached to the episodes at rss.com/podcasts/return-to-regalia. One word. Don't forget to follow us on Tumblr and Instagram at Return to Regalia to never miss an update. Thank you for listening, and until next time, fly you high.
Fly you high.